Hi, it's Morgan and welcome to the Dove's Nest. In today's video, I'm showing you what we are reading this week for the letter B. All right, it's that time again. I've got another bunch of books to show you this week in our Tot School, Homeschool, Preschool, whatever we're calling it now. We are studying the letter B and the number 2. We still are doing colors and shapes, but I don't really have specific books for a specific color and a specific shape. We're just sort of throwing it all in there together. So I thought I would flip this camera around and show you everything that we are reading this week in our homeschool. Okay, so this week we are focusing on the color blue. And so I was able to find this book here by our favorite, Eric Carle. It's called The Artist Who Painted a Blue Horse. And it's just about a little boy who paints animals in all of these crazy colors. We have another Eric Carle book, Little Cloud. And this is just a sweet little book about clouds and where they go and what they do. But again, it's very blue. It talks about seeing different shapes in the clouds. Let's see. This week we are focusing on the number 2, but I got a few different counting books. So this first one here is 1, 2, 3 Beach, a cool counting book. It's very simple. This again is going to be for my daughter as well. She really enjoys reading these kinds of stories with us. So we'll just go through and count all of the beach objects. Next, I have this book called Count on It Too, and it's just sort of a book that talks about lots of things that come in twos. 2 eyes, 2 shoes, 2 sleds, etc. Next, I have, these are the My First Steps to Math books, and I actually purchased this set on eBay, but they didn't come in time for our week last week when we were learning about the number 1, so I'm reading them both this week, and these ones are super cute. Each little child is named after a number. So for example, my 1 book and my 2 books, she's 2, he's 1, and it just sort of talks about all of the things that they do that have to do with the number 1. So number 1's walking around and he lives in 1 house, he sees 1 unicorn, he finds 1 wagon, etc. So it's just a really cute counting book. And then the same goes for my 2 book. So this is 2. It talks about her house having 2 rooms, there's 2 eggs. These are so sweet. So these are really fun, just early counting books. Next we have 10 Black Dots, and I thought this would just be a kind of fun overall counting book also. And this book just sort of talks about what different numbers of dots can do. So 1 dot can be the sun or the moon. 9 dots can make toy soldiers standing in a rank, or piggies in your bank. So just a really cute counting book that rhymes. We love books that rhyme. And then also to go with colors, we have Monsters Love Colors. So this is just a really fun color book about all the monsters. They each have their own little section of colors. This week, our letter of the week is the letter B. So again, this is similar to those math books, only this is My First Steps to Reading, and I also purchased this whole set on eBay. It's a super cute set once again. So in this book we have B, and these books all sort of read the same too. I didn't show it last week, but we read A, and they all kind of start the same way. Each little letter, so this is little B, and she has a box. And then she just walks around and talks about all of the different things that she finds to put in her box. So you can talk about beginning letter sounds. And then there's kind of a picture of all of the little letter people. Really, really cute book. For language development this week, we are learning about Betsy Bee in our Animal Alphabet Friends flashcards. So we've got some books on bees. This one here is Bumblebee by Margaret Wise Brown. We love her. So just a simple little board book here. Next we have The Honeybee Man, and this is just a really cute story, but it's super informative as well. So it talks about Fred here and how he wakes up and he gets ready to go take care of the bees that he keeps on top of his brownstone, on the roof of his brownstone. It talks about how they make honey. There was an interesting page in here about the waggle right here, kind of how the bees communicate their waggle dance, how you get the honey. So it's a really cute storybook, but super informative also. Next we have The Bee Tree, and this is a really sweet book about a young girl who doesn't want to read. And so her grandpa takes her on this adventure. They see a bumblebee and they end up chasing the bumblebee to try to find the tree and the hive that it lives in to where the honey is. And as they sort of go along their adventure, all of the townspeople kind of join in and they're all following this bee to try to find the honey. And then at the end, they all go back home and they make biscuits and honey. And it just sort of, he teaches her that, you know, if something is worth having, it's worth working for. And so if you want to have the adventure, you have to read the book. So that one was kind of a cute story. Next, we have The Magic School Bus Inside a Beehive. We love The Magic School Bus. Now, we typically just read the center stories. We don't go in through the notes and all of the speaking parts because that's just, it's kind of too much reading for my son. So we read the main text, and then if there is an episode of the show, we will turn that on and watch it. Next we have The Bee Man, and this is another book. It's a rhyming book, which we really like, but it's just sort of narrated by a little girl here, and she just sort of talks about her grandpa and all of the things he does to take care of the bees and get the honey. Her grandpa is a beekeeper. So they talk about just the whole process of getting the honey. One of our other topics in language development visuals is bananas, and so we have Banana, this book here, and in this book there are two monkeys and they only have one banana. So, I mean, literally the only word in the book is banana. But you can see they're not sharing and one's having a fit, and eventually they learn to share the banana. Next we have Betty Goes Bananas, and this is the story about a little gorilla who she can't peel her banana when she's hungry and trying to eat it, and her little friend the toucan tries to help her, but kind of everything he does makes it worse. So that's her little story. Our next subject for language development is Bear, and so we have Little Bear's Boat, and this is just a story about a little bear who loves his boat. He loves to relax and sail, but eventually he grows up and he becomes too big for his boat. And he gets a little bit sad, and then he finds another little bear to have his boat and sees how happy it makes him, and then he ends up building a big boat for himself. Next we have The Little Mouse, the Red Ripe Strawberry, and the Big Hungry Bear, and this is just a really sweet picture book, and the way it's written, it sort of brings you, the reader, into the book. So, you know, hello mouse, what are you doing? So it brings you in, you're the other character in this book, and the mouse tells you that he's trying to hide the strawberry from the big bear because bears like to eat strawberries, and so he's kind of talking about how he does it, and eventually the mouse shares the strawberry with us so that the bear can't get it. I also got Little Bear, and this is just a collection of the Little Bear stories. If you've never read them, they are just super sweet. This is a really good book if you have early readers also, but I'm just going to read it, you know, to my son and my daughter. We also have the Berenstain Bears Bee book, and this is just a classic take on alliteration. So all of the words start with B, and you just sort of go through and read. Again, this is another one, if you've got an early reader, that would be really fun to have them read to your littles or them do as a read out loud. But that one will be really fun to kind of help reinforce our B concepts. Now the rest of these books are just books that start with B. So we have Blackbird, Blackbird, What Do You Do? And this book is just about a little blackbird who's trying to figure out his purpose. So he comes and he meets all different kinds of birds and finds out what it is that they do, and figures out that he doesn't do the same thing. He's not capable of doing things that the other birds do. So then in the end, he finds his purpose and figures out what it is that he's supposed to be doing. Next we have Brick by Brick, and this is actually a wordless book about a little mouse who picks some flowers on this wall, and then the brick falls out, and slowly you can see what he and some friends, they end up tearing down this wall. They see some more friends on the other side of the river, and then they use those bricks to build a bridge. But it's just, you know, a wordless sweet little story, brick by brick. Next, we have The Three Billy Goats Gruff. This one is a classic, and I love the illustrations in this book. I just think they're so pretty. I was thinking about it the other day, and my son has never heard this story. There are some classic tales out there, for example, The Three Billy Goats Gruff, The Ugly Duckling, those sorts of books that we have never read before. So I for sure thought I should get this one and read it to my kids. Now, this book is called Stop Snoring Bernard, and we heard about this years ago. My sister-in-law's little boy checked it out from the library and sent us a screenshot of him reading it. And why this is important is Bernard is a family name, and so it's my husband's name as well as my son's real name. He doesn't go by Bernard, but it is his name. And so we thought we would check this out and sort of see what it was about. And it's about this cute little otter who just loves to curl up and go to sleep. But he snores so loudly that all of the other animals complain and tell him, you can't sleep here, you need to find somewhere else. And all he wants to hear is someone tell him good night. And so he does meet some friends and they tell him good night and then they take a nap. Okay, next I have the books that I pulled from our home library. So this first one is called James the Brave. It was written by my good friend Janae Olson. And you can find it on Amazon or at Barnes & Noble. I'll be sure to leave a link below. This isn't sponsored, but I just was blown away when she wrote this book. She's writing a second one as well. So this is about a little boy named James, and there is a spooky house at the end of his street, and he's always curious about who lives there and what's inside. And one day he gets the courage, he's got his ball, and it helps give him courage, and he goes and checks out the house and sees what's really going on in there. And it's just a really sweet book about being brave and overcoming your fears. We also have We're Going on a Bear Hunt, and this is just the classic, nursery rhyme or finger play or whatever book. And it's so darling, and we're going on a bear hunt, but I'm not afraid, can't go over it, can't go under it, you know what I mean? Just a really sweet rhyme for this book. So we're gonna read Bear Hunt. We also have Pigeon Needs a Bath. We love Mo Willems. We love the pigeon books, but this one is by far a family favorite. We read it all the time when we're in the bath. It's just so funny. It's about Pigeon, and he is super stinky and needs a bath, and he doesn't want to get in the bath. And there's this really funny page. He is looking at the water, and then at one point he's testing the water and doesn't want to get in, and there's all these problems with the bath, and then he decides to get in and that he loves the bath and loves being clean. Next we have Little Blue Truck Leads the Way. This is just the classic tale of the little blue truck and his adventures through the city and all of the other cars and trucks that he meets while in the city. Really sweet story. We also have Zipping, Zapping, Zooming Bats, and this is one of those Let's Read and Find Out Science series. So we're going to learn all we can about bats. My son right now has a thing with Batman. I don't think he even knows who Batman really is, but he likes the idea of Batman. So we will read some bat books. Next, from our Math Start book, we have The Best Bug Parade. And this is going to be talking about comparing sizes. And in our letter of the week, Confessions of a Homeschooler curriculum, we do a lot of comparing sizes and sorting sizes from smallest to largest. And so I thought this would be sort of a fun introduction into that activity. So we're going to be reading The Best Bug Parade. Next we have Blueberries for Sal by Robert McCloskey, and this is a book about a little girl who decides to go picking blueberries, and at the same time a baby bear decides to go, foraging for blueberries with her mom, and they end up sort of crossing paths and confusing each other's mother for their own. And so it's sort of a really cute little story about what happens then. Next we have Beauty and the Beast, and this is just the classic tale. This book came in a set of, 20 or 30 different storybooks from Usborne, so I'll leave the link below if that's something you're interested in. And another one that came with it is the story of Black Beauty. And so we will be reading these two stories. We also have this book here, Best Ever Big Brother, and it's just a little lift the flap book. We've already read this a bunch of times, but as I said, my daughter likes to do story time with us every day as well, so I try to incorporate some board books that will help hold her attention. I have Sweet Dreams Little Bear. This is a really cute, just sort of good night book, and the nighttime routine of this little baby bear and his dad. I sort of like to joke that every week we have one book that's sort of like the winner book. And this week for our letter B, this is the winning book. So we're not actually starting our study of the letter B and for a few more days. I've still got to pull everything together. But we've already read this book probably 100 times over the last couple of days. This book is called Boy and Bot, and it's just really simply written. It's about a little boy who meets a robot in the forest, and then the power switch gets shut off on the robot, and so the boy takes him home to take care of him. And during the night, the robot's power switch comes back on, but this time the boy is sleeping, and so the robot takes the boy home to take care of him. And then the inventor, tells him, you have to take the boy home. And so they do, but then they schedule like another play date. And so it's just really sweet about how the little boy and the robot become friends. My son is obsessed with robots and Transformers. And so, like I said, we've read this book enough times that he has most of it memorized already. So this is the clear winner this week. And lastly for this week, we have the Going to Bed book by Sandra Boynton. And this one is so much fun. Again, just sort of another routine book about all the animals on the ship and what they do before they go to bed, all of the silly things that they do. I sort of like to joke that every week we have one book that's sort of like the winner book. And this week for our letter B, this is the winning book. So we're not actually starting our study of the letter B and for a few more days. I've still got to pull everything together. But we've already read this book probably 100 times over the last couple of days. This book is called Boy and Bot, and it's just really simply written. It's about a little boy who meets a robot in the forest, and then the power switch gets shut off on the robot, and so the boy takes him home to take care of him. And during the night, the robot's power switch comes back on, but this time the boy is sleeping, and so the robot takes the boy home to take care of him. And then, the inventor makes him take the boy home, and he wakes up and everybody, let's see. And then the inventor, tells him, you have to take the boy home. And so they do, but then they schedule like another play date. And so it's just really sweet about how the little boy and the robot become friends. My son is obsessed with robots and Transformers. And so, like I said, we've read this book enough times that he has most of it memorized already. So this is the clear winner this week. So that's it. I think to date, this is the biggest batch of books I have. I know our library haul, I think I got 40 books this week between my preschoolers and my 1-year-old books that we checked out from the library. I think I got 40 this week. I actually had to open a second library card in order to get all of them because we still had some books from last week that we hadn't finished reading. And so we're like overloaded with books here. But it's so much fun. They're so cute. They're so great. We're loving reading them. And so that's what we're reading this week in Tot School. As always, if you want to continue with us on our homeschool journey, be sure to click that subscribe button, and I will see you in my next video.